Hey guys, what's up? It's Schla, welcoming ya to one of the more poorly timed episodes of Car Rides with Schla. And I don't know, timed things a little bit poorly because I finally decided to check the trunk, and my winter coat was there in my trunk, which is good. I forgot to charge my phone, which is disappointing, but I slipped it on the charger for a few. It probably was literally just a few minutes, and it jumped from 26% to 43%. So that is obviously a great sign, right? It's like, I wonder what that could entail. So we'll have to see. And in terms of how today went, pretty good day. Can't say I'm too disappointed or anything like that. Pretty joyous with how I feel and what happened and stuff. I don't know if I feel like saying pretty joyous. That sounds a little bit too rosy now, doesn't it? I feel like it makes it sound like a little too rosy. It was just a fine day. I don't think there was much else to it. It was just a fine day. What I was last talking about, though, was pretty interesting on the walk, which and kind of what I wanted to talk about now, which is this idea that I realized about gratitude, memory, and joy, and achievement and enjoyment. I don't think it makes any sense that people should even be allowed to have fun or waste time if it ends up getting to the point where they don't even remember or appreciate the time that they had. I mean, this happens a lot nowadays, right? Where you have people, particularly with, TikTok, it's such a easy example for pretty much everything that I talk about. It makes it so you spend a lot of time partaking in an activity and you don't even get to remember the activity. Like you don't really remember what you did while you were watching it. You don't really, it feels good, but you hardly really remember that feeling or are really grateful for it. It's just like a random moment. And so it ultimately, how good does it even feel? That's kind of the premise there. Kind of the premise there. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. I ambitiously left slightly later than usual, and I think it's a huge mistake. I was very ambitious about leaving just a hair later. But I've done this before, so it could just be like a chance thing. It's kind of difficult to say. Well, it's more than kind of difficult. It's like super difficult to say. Really. But it's not looking good, so it's kind of ruining my train of thought a little bit. just a little bit. Just a bit. Anyways, sorry. Like, I guess I never really thought about it too much, to too extreme of a degree before, but it is true. It is very true. Why do we allow this? With gratitude and gratefulness, how and why do we allow things to be the way it is? There's lots of people who are very rich and wealthy, and these people get to experience such extreme things, like going to very fancy restaurants and going on very special fancy vacations, and they might not really appreciate them very much just because they were born into a certain family, so now they have extra money. And then now they're experiencing something and doing things that they don't really appreciate, and maybe they just can't appreciate. I don't really know what the answer is to that. I don't think it's things that it's even possible for them to appreciate. And everybody has a different degree of appreciation. Everybody has a different degree of appreciation. You know, some people appreciate a lot. Yeah, I'm just going to take a pause to note it. I don't really know what happened, but I just feel very, thrown off. Just with how terrible the traffic is right now. And it just how much that really threw me off, you know? Like, it really threw me off how awful the traffic is. And then I feel like I'm trying to pull off this idea, and it's just not, I'm not really able to explain it all that well for whatever reason. And it's kind of bothering me. I feel pretty just off right now for some reason. You can kind of tell. It's definitely more difficult to speak when you are dealing with traffic or whatever, but still, it's not very like me. I think it's possible that it's just such a rehearsed thing, it's something I knew I wanted to talk about. And so I think that kind of trips me up. When there's something that I want to talk about and I have it planned, now all of a sudden I'm all mumbled and jumbled. Isn't that weird? Half the time these episodes start and I end up talking about something that wasn't intentional. And then here I am, I finally am clear, I have something I want to talk about. And then here we are, I can't really say it properly or something. And I mean, part of it, maybe even most of it, really did just have to do with the traffic and what could be more traffic, because that remains to be seen. But I think it is a true point about me. It's just difficult for me to understand, I guess. Just very difficult for me to understand. So, because usually it's the other way around. I mean, if somebody doesn't have something planned, then it's this big problem or something. But in my case, it's the other way around. It's when I have something planned, I'm tripping up I'm not really figuring out my words. You see, now I'm riffing and now everything's fine. It was in my own words earlier, but I didn't get to talk about it because in the previous walk switch law I was gonna talk about it, but then I thought of that other thing that I wanted to talk about. And I didn't get to record during the walk switch law at lunch, so it's this old stale idea, and I guess the idea got too stale, and now like I can't really compute it or figure it out. Isn't that weird? I feel like that's pretty weird, you know? Because again, like that's just not the norm. It's just definitely not the norm that occurs. So it's interesting, I guess. Pretty interesting. But yeah, I mean, I still want to talk about it. It's like so a shame. So a shame that I can't, like, I don't know what's going on. I'm like tripping up over nothing, really. I can't believe it's like that right now. It's just this concept about gratitude and how and I've definitely talked about this similar thing before, but I guess here's like a slightly different word. I mean, this was lots of episodes ago. I think that it should be illegal for somebody to do something fun if they're not going to remember it, right? And this is kind of the thing with what we do with our time. It's like, if you're going to gamble, well, like oftentimes it's like you play a video game, you feel good, but then you don't really remember it, you know? Like a lot of times it just kind of becomes a blur. Everything becomes a blur. And then people don't really remember. Like you like go on TikTok and you see a bunch of videos and like it feels good, but you don't really remember that feeling, like the next day. It's like people, they eat food and then they couldn't even tell you what they had to eat. It's actually evil. Like it's genuinely an evil thing, because if you're going to indulge in variety, you'd better at least be grateful for it, and you'd better at least remember. If not, you shouldn't get variety of food. You should hunker down and, eat on a budget and just eat the same thing repetitively. Because if you're not even, I mean, there's been times in civilization where people had no choice. They had to eat that way. They didn't have like different food to eat and all. Sorry, just driving and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of lost my. Anyways, sorry. I'm not used to driving in all these like low traffic. It's actually been kind of a while. Yeah, since I've driven in like I'm not going to get home at a good time. It's like weird. But it's just the extra concentration that it takes and uses up. Anyways, sorry, I keep like losing. I think food might even be a better example, because that happens all the time. I mean, someone will like splurge and get food out, get some special takeout, and then like the next week they're not even thinking about it anymore. Like, it was like for that moment, it was some urge that they couldn't resist. But then afterwards, they just don't even care. Like, it's just like, oh, whatever. That was just then. Now I have a different laundry list of things that I need. And it's this like unsatiable hunger. And it's crazy. Like, the fact that this is how the world is and operates is a shame. It's the fact that humans act in this way. It's just, it's weird, you know? It's very weird. It's very super strange. And it's evil. It's absolutely evil. And so what I think should happen, because if you think about it, it's just a waste of time. If you're not going to remember what you did, you might as well just work. You might as well just be doing something productive. If you're going to forget about your joy and forget about your pleasure, which is more often than not the case now. Again, it's all about noise and novelty now. There's not really any remembrance or appreciation of things. That doesn't really occur anymore. You just don't see that as often. Everybody just does things fast and they forget. And I forget about some things as well, but again, like I said, my memory, it's better. It's still not really good, but it's better than a lot of people's. To me, it doesn't feel good, but then, you know, I think if you made a direct comparison to other people, I think it becomes fairly obvious that, yes, my memory is quite good. But I'm saying, to me, like, I'm still very much a human, and I don't really have any particular, like, crazy special superhuman traits or abilities or anything super cool like that, sadly. You know, it's kind of a shame. I wish I did. There's some people in the world who have it, you know, like the super good memory. But in some ways, I think I'm happy, because if my memory was any better than it is, I mean, I would just be so miserable. I don't know. I'm so serious, because having a good memory is never helpful. It's just really bad. But it's also the type, because my type of memory is not useful. It's mostly remembering feelings, emotions, and experiences, not necessarily details. Although I would say my detail recall, or like my, you know, number or just random word recall, probably above average. But short, quick memory like that I kind of choke up on. Like, I choke. But anything that's a long memory, or something that I feel or experience, those memories are very sticky. And for a lot of people, they're minimal when they go out to eat, because they either do it so often, or, you know, you forget about it. And I think I need to be even better, though. You know, like, I don't really think I'm mindful enough. And I think that's part of the problem. I think this is all coming to me because I've been having the same problem, where you just start doing so much random stuff, but you're not really paying attention. And it's so easy for people to just slip into that and not to be held accountable for it. So that's what I think. I think it should just be illegal. It should be illegal to do anything that is unproductive, worthless, you know, for the sake of fun, if you're going to forget about it and not enjoy it. You might as well just work. I mean, there's no really reason why people should be allowed to have fun. Now, this doesn't mean never have fun. That's not what it means, because you still can. But it's that if you're going to do something fun, you need to be able to remember it. And I kind of think this could be, like, I really could be onto something with this. It sounds kind of crazy, but you think in the past, people having fun just was harder to come by. There was a lot of waiting. There was a lot of inefficiencies. Things were slow, in the past, and very structured, very segmented, and you really had to wait. And that's kind of what that did, is it reinforces memory. You have to remember, as a species, we are supposed to, we're just here, we're around, and, as a species, we're meant to process things in fairly long ways. Our lives were incredibly slow for most of them. Then now, randomly, all of a sudden, we're overstimulated to the high heavens. The degree and the amount of overstimulation is insane compared to our lives before. Were just so laid back and simple. We just were in nature and hunted, fished, twiddled our thumbs, lived in caves. Or even once civilization was coherent, you really didn't do that much, and you probably remembered what you ate back then, because your day was wake up, till the crops for 3 hours, and then if it was a treat, you had a gram of sugar to make a cake once a week. So it was easy, and things that you mostly did work, and then the things that were pleasureful were very minimal. Nowadays, there's no waiting. You're just constantly getting what you want. You don't even have to know what to do with yourself anymore. You just open up TikTok and start scrolling. You don't have to think. You don't have to, oh, what am I going to do? I'm bored. Am I going to figure out something? No, you just have a trigger finger app to just go to kill time. So that's obviously, it's affecting people greatly. It's affecting people in a large way. It's hurting their memory and affecting their memory, most importantly. As we've discussed, hurting and affecting their memory. It's a shame. But it also lowers gratitude, inevitably. Because at any moment, you're constantly able to listen to music. You're constantly able to find new music rapidly. Back in the day, you had to walk down to the store, buy a record, and if you didn't like the record, you weren't going to get rid of it. You were probably still going to listen to it. And maybe get used to a new genre or something. Just because you didn't really like it, you still listen to it. Then, you have radio, and radio kind of gives you a taste of songs, but you can't really skip it that much. You can page through channels, but stations, sorry. Kind of forgot about what a station was there for a second. You page through stations, yeah, I mean, you can page through channels and whatnot. But ultimately, you're not going to do that forever. I mean, maybe back in the day that is genuinely what people did. I'm not really sure, but yeah, I guess that's what people did. But it's still different, obviously. It's much different than the way TikTok operates at this stage. Much different. It's much different. So there's just no moments to even like breathe or appreciate anything anymore. And I think that's why when I'm talking to people and I'm trying to make friends, like that's the problem. Because I experimented with a lot of these things, like, dopamine detox and just trying to take things slow. Even now, I think it's been worse. Like, I've obviously fallen victim to a lot of these crazy dopamine craziness things, and it's a shame, but I still think within that, I kind of restrict myself. Like, I don't know. I actually watch a lot of repetitive things, and yeah, it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I watch so much more repetition than other people, which is at least like I don't watch like different stuff. A lot of the times, I don't know. Like I tend to be pretty consistent with what I watch, which is again in huge opposition to most people. They're just all over the place with what they watch nowadays or what they do. But I think like that's the problem, because then I'm interacting with people and I'm not realizing like these people are depraved. Like they're not grateful for anything. They don't have a moment to breathe. They don't have a moment to think straight. They're just constantly engaged with these mediums of it, and it's mess. It's just like a huge mess. It's stuff that you can't even remember, and so people don't remember things. And you spend time with people, you try to bond with them, but between you and them calling, it's like they've played like 5 video games, they've watched hours worth of reels or TikToks. They're not going to know what on earth and on top of all that, having their own lives to live, having their own stresses to deal with, which are more plentiful than ever nowadays, when that really doesn't make any sense, because things should actually be easier than they've ever been, because technology does make things easier. It's true. The potential for things to be easier is high. Things should be ridiculously easier for everybody. Everybody should be living far better than they did in the past, but we don't, because of, it's really people's own fault for not really getting involved in politics and voting poorly. So you can make the argument that people deserve it, but it's a little bit difficult to do that, because that's not only it sounds terrible, it feels like kind of terrible to say, but I don't know how else it's justified, because it's just it would have been so easy for people to just be more involved in their politics, and then getting good rules and good legislation passed, but people are just totally out of it. They can really only see their day to day. So when you have these big complicated systems, they're supposed to help things, but it's just so difficult for people to see that. People to see outside of their day to day, so they don't really understand how it works, or, different little things like that. That pop up. Whoa, that person did not need to do that. Like, hate when people do that. They like I'm coming out of a stop sign and they're like, they just did not need to do that. Anyways, sorry, yeah, I don't know. Even before that happened, it's like my brain just reset. It like I was having this really coherent string of dialogue. I mean, that's just what this series is. It's just what this series is, especially the car rides, which law. It needs to be edited. The walk switch law, it's a little bit better because it's a shorter time span, so it's easier for me to have like a continuous thought. But and it's also walking. Like, of course, I'm a big believer in thinking that, while you're walking, your mind is kind of better suited than driving. I mean, driving works too, but it would be like if there was just zero traffic. Then driving would be not quite as strong as walking, but it would be similarly conducive, I think, to talk and drive. But yeah, it's I don't know, it's an interesting concept, isn't it, about gratitude and how people really shouldn't be allowed to enjoy if they don't, like, if you can't remember that amazing meal you had a couple months ago. And I feel guilty about this myself, and everybody really should. I try to think back to like the special dinners I've had over my life, and I think I remember more of them than most people. But then again, that's because I didn't really indulge as much. It's almost weird. It's like, having restraint, it just makes, it's such a difficult thing to balance. It's almost like doing nothing is somehow superior. Isn't that weird? Doesn't that like not make a lot of sense? It's weird. I don't even know what we're saying's weird. I'm like, wow, I'm like really losing it. Oh no, yeah, no, I know. Like, people really don't feel guilty about that, and oh, that's what I was saying. Yeah, because some people, like, their families or whatever would just be more indulgent, so they might go out to a restaurant once a week, or like once every 2 weeks, or like every month or something. So eventually you forget because it becomes such a repetitive thing. But at least if it's the same place, I think that's better. Like, if you go to a restaurant every week, but it's just the same place every week, it's kind of like, well, there's probably more memory reinforcement and gratitude because it's easier to remember details when it's the same place. But like, imagine you go to like a different place every week. you're not even going to be able to remember that. I mean, maybe if you were, you know, I don't know, if you have like a pretty good memory or you think about this stuff like I do, I'd probably do a decent job at it, but the only way it would really be guaranteed is if I just didn't do anything else half the time. It's weird how like far I've fallen with this kind of stuff. Like it's almost like really being able to just stop and breathe is such an important skill, and I haven't been able to do that in a while. You know, like I just haven't been able to stop and breathe. It's like always like stimulated because you get addicted to the stimulation and stuff. But yeah, I mean, to stop and breathe, it's such a power, I think, especially nowadays. And I think probably explains kind of what is going on with me and people. You know, we just can't have those rest moments. I mean, imagine if I just didn't even use my phone, right? It's like you just didn't have that noise and that stimulation. It would eventually be a good thing. But we get so addicted. It's difficult. But that's like what I'm realizing. It's like, wow, like maybe it is just that simple. Like I could just be this guy who just doesn't really use the phone and just like, I don't know, you know, lives kind of a boring life and doesn't do too much, but like I'm okay with that. There's still probably a lot of people that think that way. But I get very wrapped up in, you know, my potential and what I should be doing, and you know, it gets pretty complicated. It definitely gets pretty complicated. But what can you do? It's pretty interesting, though. That's what I'll say. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, again, there should be limits on these things. There should be limits on joy and pleasure, because that's why I think people were happier. Because in the past, it was like having a candy bar was like this big deal. Whereas nowadays, there's probably people who down them daily. Because it's just like there's not... It's just, that's just how it is now. Like you can just really easily go and buy one and you just do it. Like that's the way the system is. Like it's deranged, you know, we're deranged. I think that's a good way to sum it up. Whereas in the past, it was just so much more limited in terms of what you even thought or what you did. Anyways, it's been schla, but now it's time to buy schla. So, see you schla.